Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jeff the Tech Blazer coming at you today with my 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro review. But before I get into it, my reviews I feel like I want them to be a bit more understandable than a lot of the typical reviews on YouTube, where there's a lot of, at least for laptops, there's a lot of benchmarks, there's lots of stuff like that. I would prefer to make a review for like the average Joe, for lack of a better term. For somebody who they're interested in a product, they want to know how it's going to work in the everyday life, everyday use, not setting up benchmarks and stuff like that. Not people who necessarily want the exact amount of screen on time they're 100% going to get, but more just people who, like me, I was interested in this, I wanted to pick it up. I've never had one before. I've never had a MacBook before. And I went for the Pro because I knew I'd be doing some video editing, and I figured, it might have an edge in that department. But when it comes to the review, just know that it's going to be more of a just like my use, how it's been going for me, not so much big numbers, benchmarks, stuff like that. But let's get into it. Alright, so first up, let's talk about the display on this guy. It's a 13.3 inch 2560 by 1600 Retina display. It gets plenty bright for my use. If you're watching YouTube, Netflix, anything like that, screen plenty bright, plenty sharp, don't have any issues with it whatsoever. I don't really ever take it out and use it outside, but I imagine if I did, with how bright the screen is, it would be fine. But I've only ever used it in the house. I've traveled with it a bit, not very far, and used it in other locations, but not like sat outside and used it. So when it comes to outside brightness, I imagine it would be fine. It might not be the brightest screen in the world, but for me it definitely does a job. It does have a 720p webcam that is hidden up in the bezel of the top of the screen, and because it's a black bezel, I tend to lose track of it and completely forget it's there. And the bezels, it's not the most modern looking with the thinnest bezels, but they're not bad, especially because of how nice the screen actually looks. You tend to not pay too much attention to it, but there are definitely bezels on there, and the 720p camera doesn't look great. It looks like a 720p image, so it could be better, could be a lot better, but it also could be worse. So if you're looking for top quality webcam, it's probably not this one. Alright, the speakers. They're stereo speakers with high dynamic range. They sound great. They'll definitely do for watching any content you want to watch, but also if you're just you throw Spotify on and you want to listen to some of your favorite tracks, they definitely sound great on there. It can get plenty loud. It doesn't have a ton of bass, but it's a laptop, and from what I've experienced with laptops, you're not going to get crazy bass in them, and it's no different here. But that doesn't really affect the sound. It's still pretty clear sound. You can definitely still enjoy all of your favorite music on it, and again, it gets pretty loud if you want to listen to it at a higher volume. The keyboard on this, I like it. I think they went back to their keyboard that they had before, the butterfly keyboard, which I'm pretty sure people didn't like, and it kept getting stuck, and there was all sorts of weird input issues with that one, so they went back to the previous one. I'm enjoying it. There's a good amount of key travel, good amount of sound in there. It's not like a mechanical keyboard where it's going to be extremely loud and you're going to hear a loud clack or anything like that. But it's a nice little satisfying sound. There's a good amount of key travel. It doesn't feel like there's any real flex in the keyboard or anything like that. So it's a solid typing experience, and I like the backlight that's on it. It's just a white backlight that's in there, but it's a nice little addition in case you have the lights off and you want to type on there, dimmed lights, what have you. It also just really looks nice. But the keyboard has been great. I have no issue with it. I like the amount of travel with it. I used to have a Lenovo Yoga something, and it was a tank of a laptop, but the keys they're all smushed together and a little squishy. These ones, they're nicely spaced, they feel good. And then there's the trackpad, which I hate trackpads with a passion. And the MacBook Pro, M1 MacBook Pro one is no different. It's a good trackpad. I do not have the controls down for it yet at all. Again, this is my first MacBook that I've ever owned. But so there's different controls with different swiping and different ways to click and how many fingers you use to click and the whole nine. But I mean, it feels good. It's a good trackpad. I just don't like trackpads. The M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch does have the touch bar, which I feel like people either love or hate the touch bar. I'm a little bit indifferent. It doesn't bother me, certainly being up there. Sometimes it'll have a suggestion if you're typing, like you're taking notes or something. It can auto finish a word for you, stuff like that. When it comes to editing, I'm using iMovie right now, and some little suggestions will pop up there, or maybe instead of a keyboard shortcut, there's like, you can say I have a clip and I want to split it into 2 clips basically. Sometimes that option is right there, so when I look up, that's there. I can just tap it, keep on going. That's convenient. If it wasn't there, that'd be cool too. It doesn't bother me either way. Battery life on this thing for me has been great. I haven't been able to kill it in a day. It can take me taking a 12-minute long video, using it for however many hours, maybe up to 4 hours or whatever, depending on what I'm doing. Editing that down, messing with the volume, changing the audio levels, whole nine, editing a clip, cutting it, deciding I hate the whole project and trying it again. It's handled all of that extremely well. Even when I am done with the video and I'm exporting it, it's not crushing the battery. I haven't had it, I would say, probably go below like 76% if I'm really trying to crush it with video editing. Now, my video editing isn't very complicated. I'm shooting at 4K 24, but it's not like I'm using an extremely crazy professional setup or anything, so it's not the most difficult data for it to go through, but it's been able to handle that extremely well. I have no issues with the battery life whatsoever. If I'm just watching shows on it, doing a Netflix binge or whatever, it's handled that great. I haven't had, again, a single issue with battery life. It's solid. It'll get you through the day. And you don't have to charge it every single night either. The battery life it's that good, in my opinion at least. As far as my everyday use with this laptop or MacBook, I use it primarily to watch videos, YouTube, Netflix, HBO Max, what have you. I'm on Safari, doing some online shopping with it. I don't always want to be tethered to this, so I'll take it around my house. I do all of the past, I think, 5 videos, including this one you're watching right now, will be edited on the M1 MacBook Pro. So I don't game on it. If I eventually do game on it, I will update you guys. But from everything I've seen, it can handle gaming okay. Doesn't appear to be meant for that. But for what I use it for, it's primarily just content consumption and creating content. And for that, I haven't had a single issue with it. If you're watching this video, you've probably watched different videos on the M1 MacBook Pro, and one thing that you've probably heard a bunch of times is it's fast. And that is spot on. It is just that. It is fast. Everything you've heard about the speed, for me at least so far, 100% holds up. Everything it does. It launches apps fast. It launches web pages fast. It can export a video quickly. It does it faster than that does, depending on what the task is, which is nuts because that computer behind me is no slouch. But every single thing you've heard about it being fast is totally true. And the M1 MacBook Pro has a fan in it, unlike the M1 MacBook Air. But no matter what I've put this thing through so far, I I don't believe I have heard that fan kick on a single time. Haven't had a thermal issue whatsoever with it. It hasn't gotten hot on my lap while I'm using it. Nothing like that. It's been pretty much I don't want to give Apple too much credit, but it's been a pretty ideal laptop, other than there's stuff that I still don't know how to do on it, so I'm still learning, but that's on me, not so much Apple. It does only have 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack, so if you're looking to plug a bunch of different stuff into it, or having a lot of ports or anything like that, that's not gonna happen with this. So that'll kind of force you or nudge you toward buying a bunch of the dongles that they have if you want to connect a bunch of stuff to it. Alright, the price. It's steep. It comes in at $1,299 for the 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage version. And I have, the iCloud, I have the iPhone, Apple Watch, all that stuff. So with that, I don't really care how much onboard storage there is, because I have a lot from the cloud. But I would have liked to get a higher storage amount in there. But at $1,299, it's a bit steep. Didn't really want to go past that. If you want to save yourself some money, depending on what your use case is, if you just want a very nice laptop to kick around with, and you go for the M1 MacBook Air, that is, I think it starts at $999. That about wraps it up. I absolutely love this laptop. I do not regret buying it. It is beautiful. Once I figured out how to do stuff on it, it was even better. I don't regret it at all. It might not necessarily be the purchase for you. I'm not going to encourage everybody run out and get it. But for me, it has been excellent. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. And maybe I'll throw some games on here and do a second part to this review later on after I've had a bit more time with it, beat it up a little bit more, and see how it holds up. But this has been Jeff the Tech Blazer. If you like this one, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.